Hello and welcome to the second broadcast of the semester for AUP 7 News. I'm Jessica Benny.
And I'm Kara Ferguson. It was an awfully cold winter, but it finally looks like spring has sprung. And Paris sure is beautiful this time of year.
Yes, it is, but beautiful weather brings in more tourists. And Paris can be quite expensive for visitors.
Well, luckily for American tourists, the euro-dollar exchange is better than it has been in a decade. Our very own Jessica reports.
Earlier this week, a shock came through in La Défense, the financial district of Paris. At almost 1-to-1, for the first time in 12 years, the European euro and the US dollar is dancing to the same tune. Since June, the dollar has been slowly winning the upward battle against the euro, making life in Paris finally more affordable.
Trading specialist at Société Générale explains how and what will happen.
Seeing the aggressive drop that happened on the euro-dollar quote, we are expecting to see another drop that will take the euro-dollar to 1-to-1 quotation, which will mean achieving the European Central Bank expectations. People working on the market will try to keep it to that level and not take it lower. Goldman Sachs is predicting a drop to 0.8 by 2017, which we are skeptical about.
But for American tourists and students living in Europe, purchasing things abroad is finally the same thing as purchasing from the U.S.
You know, if you have your parents send you money from the States, if you're from the States, it's always been such a hassle with the exchange rate because you get so much less. So you think your mom's sending you a lot of money for your monthly allowance, and then in fact you have I don't know, half of what you thought you had. So now it's much easier and much more convenient for us. So we can enjoy our lives more.
Many students at the American University of Paris receive dollars from their U.S. loans or parental support. Dollars, once meant being able to buy less, now means being able to buy more for your dollar. AUP, a university listed in Forbes magazine for being one of the most expensive in the world, is now about the same as a public university in the States because of the exchange rate. For students at AUP, continuing education in Paris was sometimes not seen as an option due to having to pay more for daily essentials. Over the years, American students studying abroad have waited to purchase things in the U.S. in order to avoid the stronger euro, which added about 30% to everything bought. With more tourism and students staying in Paris due to the stronger dollar, the French economy will see a slow but sure rise. With the new change in economy, it seems as though the European dream will finally be accessible to American students studying abroad. This is Jessica Benny for AUP 7 News.
It's a great time to be an American in the city, but being a student doesn't always warrant a steady income. Living with roommates can be a great way to save money and make new friends. AUP 7's own reporter, Corinna Sotalone, tells us how it is to live with roommates.
Many of AUP's new students this semester have been placed into shared housing, but for those who have been living alone, this situation is one they may not be very used to. Living with roommates is slightly different than living with your family. Many students living in situations fall into one of two categories, one of which the roommates are very inclusive and they are involved in each other's lives, or they give each other distance. This is a case with one particular household in the AUP community.
Okay. I lived in dorms for the first 2 years of college in Ohio and San Francisco. Personally, I feel like the apartment situation in Paris is a lot better because you have your own space and you have a kitchen, a bathroom that you don't share with 3 million other girls. There's a lot less mess because personally you have to deal with people being really in close proximity with each other, and I don't have to deal with that here because I have my own room.
How do people in a shared flat spend time with one another with a lack of synchronicity in class schedules?
We mostly spend time together in the afternoons, around 6, where we just all cook our meals and then eat in the common areas. We like to talk about TV shows and such, and just sometimes go grocery shopping and go to the market on Sundays.
Living with roommates definitely has its ups and downs. The third roommate of this apartment dynamic gave her positives and negatives.
I'm never lonely. There's always someone I can count on and share a special moment with and cheer me up when I'm sad. Sometimes it's hard to have your moment alone when you share your room with somebody.
Is joint living really what it's cracked up to be? The experience really depends on the circumstances of the dynamic of the people living in this apartment. This has been Karina Sotalon with AUP 7 News.
It seems like living with roommates can be fun and cost efficient. Unfortunately, that money saved won't be going towards traveling, as travelers might have to put their trip on hold thanks to the air traffic strike in Paris.
I know, 40% of flights were canceled last week, and strikers are threatening to do the same at the end of April as well as the beginning of May. This means that people might have to be grounded for a while, which isn't so bad if you're living in Paris.
I hope everyone will be able to travel. But being confined to a place is a very realistic matter for over 11 million people who've been displaced due to Syria's civil war that has been ongoing for the last 4 years. The UN reports that over half of Syria's current population and the growing number of refugees are in need of humanitarian assistance. Some AUP students are doing their part in the humanitarian effort. Ariana Mosafari has more on this story.
Think this is just another AUP wine and cheese event? Hardly so. Last week, the university held a fundraiser for Syrian refugees in conjunction with Syrian human rights organizations. AUP invited Basma Kudmani, the co-founder of the Arab Reform Initiative, and Ziad Majed, a Middle East and Islamic Studies professor at AUP, to speak on this deepening Syrian crisis due to the country's ongoing civil war.
Estimates are that 12.2 million Syrians are in need of assistance, humanitarian assistance.
With a population of 24 million, this means that over half of Syrian citizens are in need of aid. Professor Majed also called for increased assistance from the international community.
There is no enough work being done, there are no enough initiatives being organized by the international community to support the Syrian population in its human disaster, in this tragedy, but also in this struggle for freedom, justice, and dignity.
Hala Kudmani, the sister of Basma Kudmani, is a French-Syrian journalist who frequently reports from Syria. She says that providing basic needs like food and clothes isn't the problem in refugee camps.
I think the top priority now in refugee camps, especially in those that are not really organized, is education. Education, teaching, because many children who have been displaced will have had their homes and schools completely in destruction. It is very urgent that they get back a totally lost generation.
The money from this fundraiser will be supporting CODESY, which, when translated to English, means the Collective for Syrian Development and Relief. Abby McLean is a senior at AUP and interns for CODESY, which will be donating the proceeds of this fundraiser to a school for Syrian refugee children.
And unfortunately, because there are so many refugees, it's hard for these Syrian children to be integrated into the school system. So this is a school started by refugees to help these children so they don't lose a lot of years of education. And with CODESY's help, we were able to keep the school open for another term.
AUP's Alexander Sethi, a passionate photographer, is making his own contribution to helping Syrian refugees by providing the official photos for Surya Haria, another Syrian human rights advocacy group based in France.
Anything you can do, it's amazing when you take that potential and you push it towards an initiative like this, something that feeds your soul. You can take that and it can then help people.
This has been Ariana Mosafari for AUP 7.
If you are interested in learning about how you can help, stay tuned for announcements around campus about Syrian refugee events.
Did you know that there is a refugee dorm in Berlin, Germany, where students host refugees and make them into their roommates?
No, I didn't, but it sounds like an interesting experience.
In other news, AUP has hosted several alumni who have graduated and gone to create fascinating careers in the field of journalism. All of these women have created an impact by covering conflict areas. AUP has also hosted several media professionals who have created a social impact through television. Our reporter, Kara Ferguson, tells us more. That looked like such an inspiring event.
It was. It really made me think about everything that I've watched on TV. Speaking of, have you seen the new season of the HBO series Game of Thrones?
I will this weekend. Well, it seems like AUP has so many interesting events going on. This weekend there will be the International Food Fair, where students can try food from all around the world. Stay tuned for next week's broadcast to see what students have to say. This is Jessica Benny.
And I'm Kara Ferguson. Thanks for watching AUP 7 News.